You're mute.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear us?
Yes. Okay.
All right, good.
Hi, everyone. So welcome to our webinar on how do we attract our lover. So we're going to do a very short introduction about us for those who don't know us. So I'll start with myself.
Yes, please.
So my name is Natalie. I'm from France, so if ever you don't understand me very well, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask me to repeat if needed. So I'm a Taoist and a Tantra teacher, and with my wonderful lover here, we are completely fascinated by the subconscious, by all the patterns and so on that we find in relationships, and obviously it impacts also our daily lives. So how we are with family, with friends, at work, and so on. So we decided to bring this, basically bring more awareness into this type of obscure and dark area. You can.
And I'm Alex. I practice Tantra and Yoga for the past 25 years. And I'm very, very passionate about discovering the self. And I also realized around 7 years ago that the wounds and the patterns and the subconscious is necessary to be understood and brought into consciousness in order to be truly ourselves. And I'm sharing my experience and my knowledge with the world. I'm author of Be You and Feel Good and Men 3.0, and those books and trainings are designed on these wounds and patterns and how to be ourselves as human beings and as men. I'm very happy to be here tonight with you.
So we're going to start. We will speak for more or less an hour and a half. And we will leave 30 minutes for question if you have. If there is technical issues, please unmute yourself because we're not going to be on the chat quite often. But if you have any question, write it in the chat and we will answer at the end of the talk. So that's it.
Yeah, good. So let's dig in. So how do we attract our lover?
The essence, I guess, of the workshop.
Yes. So how does attraction works? So why are we attracted in the first place by our partner? And while Natalie is adding participants from the waiting room, I will start.
You can say it.
So it's basically physical appearance. It's we are visual people. We like to see, and physical appearance plays an important role in attraction. And if I want to dig into physical appearance and speak from the perspective of the subconscious, there is something in the other one that looks like your mother, like your father, that you recognize as familiar, and then you feel attracted. It is a subconscious process. It's not all the time conscious. Most of the time it's not conscious, but it is related also with how we create our preferences, and this happens in early childhood.
Yes, but when he talks about physical appearance and about similarities, it's obviously not about that, because we usually go for actually the opposite for most of us, what we don't want, because we usually say we don't want to end up like our parents. Doesn't happen often, but I believe from all my surrounding that they always say, I don't want to be like my parents, I don't want to be like my mother, or I don't want to be like my father. And eventually we end up doing the same thing. So the attractions really works on on this actually. Basically, on the first thing, we look at the appearance. Obviously, if we meet somebody in the street, it would be like, oh, I like her energy, or I like her femininity, or I like his masculinity, the way he looks, the way he's built, the way he holds himself, for example. And but it's actually beyond the appearance, obviously, because it has the energetical aspect out of it, the aura, what emanates from the person. And when you go and talk to the person, then there's the familiarity that gets into it, the way he or she speaks, and or gestures, or any habits. And this is something that attracts us, because it reminds us, usually the childhood, as Alex mentioned. It's really remind us, oh, but we're not aware of this because it's embedded in our subconscious. So it's more about, oh, my father used to do this, or my mother used to cook this type of dish, and it reminds me my mother, and so on. So this is what we usually go for in general. And for those who are not much into spirituality, or basically if you believe it or not, there's also what we call the karmic relationships. So you don't have to believe in it, but
I can take on that. So for the ones who know, like we all have an energetic field around us. We all have a soul, an imprint. We come into this life, and in Sanskrit are called samskaras. So these are kind of like karmic deeds, and obviously we relate with a lot of people along our existence in this life and other past lives, if you believe in that concept. And sometimes we come back to learn the lessons that we refuse to learn. And we'll talk a bit about this later. And this is what we mean by karmic relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. So
so now what happens after the attraction takes place? So usually we get attracted to somebody, and then we start having feelings, falling in love. For those who are not afraid, obviously, of falling in love. And usually what happens is that I hear this a lot, people coming to me, Natalie, I don't understand, like everything was so beautiful at first, like this man was perfect, this woman was perfect, and now everything's wrong, nothing works, there's so many problems, and I don't understand why. And this is what happened basically when we go deeper into a relationship. And this is what people don't understand. It's more comfortable we become with somebody, and more the subconscious, the wounds and the patterns kicks in. And that's why usually we hurt people we love the most. And that's why usually who we're most mean to, it's our family. Our family is the one we dare speaking back to them, we dare challenging them, because they're our family, and we, in a way, we're safe subconsciously to open up fully everything we feel to a certain extent, because we obviously have a lot of suppressed emotions towards our childhood and up to adult. So yeah, so this is usually what happens. And we do the same with our relationship. We start behaving like we behave with our family. So we start challenging our partner, our lovers, on the same way.
Yeah. So the subconscious is something that fortunately and unfortunately comes along in our relationship. So we fall in love, and we see the other as perfect, and the other sees us as perfect. And then after the romantic love, we don't pay attention to the romantic love that much. We start to observe the subconscious patterns. We start to observe the luggage that we come with. And I like this comparison is we have a storage, and that store is dark in that storage. And when we fall in love, we open the door of the storage and we put love inside the storage. But because it's dark, we don't know what is there, and it's full. So we push love into the storage, and then something comes out. We don't know what it is because it's dark in there. It's the unconscious. We don't know what it is. And something is coming up. And that's why in the love relationships, we face our worst fears, our worst, the shame and all these past experiences which we didn't deal with, and they are coming up to the surface. And we'll see later on why they are coming up to the surface and how to deal with them.
Before we continue, would you like to share the 3 stages of love?
The 3 stages of love?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you refer to like romantic love, and then so the 3 stages of the relationship are romantic love, when we are in love, and then there is the power struggle, the 2nd stage, and the 3rd stage is unconditional love. So,
and most of the time we get stuck on the 2nd one, and this is usually where it breaks down. Because as he said at the beginning, everything is beautiful, and then all of us always went through the power struggle, where we have all the problem arising, we have all the argument, we have miscommunication, misunderstanding, and it comes from there. And only few people can actually manage to go to reach the level of unconditional love. And this is when we manage to understand basically our wounds, we understand our subconscious and patterns, that we can actually reach the unconditional love. And having all of us, we have someone around us where we have the ideal couple, and we look upon them and we say, I would love to become like them. They've been together 20 years, 30 years, and they love each other so much. And we all want this, but unfortunately, it comes kind of at a cost. Because there's some work to do behind that we will obviously share.
Exactly. So, and I think it's good to know the wounds, because the wounds are pretty similar. They can be found in different names, but at the end they are quite similar to all of us. There is no real surprises there. And I'm going to share with you, well, first of all, so the wounds are rejection.
We have, just before saying that,
Yeah,
sorry,
yes.
We have 5 main ones. So obviously there are always like kind of subcategories, and they're kind of, they're working in a way together, but we're going to split it in 5 to make it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's the wound of rejection, the wound of abandonment, the wound of humiliation, the wound of betrayal, and the wound of injustice. And because of these 5 wounds, the triggers appear. I will not talk now about the triggers, but when we get triggered with the other person, is almost always one of these 5 wounds. So we feel either rejected, we feel abandoned, humiliated, betrayed, or we feel that something unjust has been done to us. And it is important, it's very important to know about the existence of these wounds. And also it's important to know how to deal with the wounds. Otherwise, we will blame the other for what she or he did to us.
Yes, and we usually have a predominant one. So for example, for me, it's betrayal. Some people have no betrayal issues. For example, when someone does something to me, I will feel betrayed, and I will say, yeah, but you did that behind my back, or you did that, blah, blah. Some people wouldn't even blink and they wouldn't feel this way. So it's something you really need to discover. Some people will be more rejection, and they will feel rejected for anything. If you ask for something and you set your boundaries, they will feel rejected. And depending on our wants, we behave in a certain way. So we create some masks, basically, and the masks are there to protect us from feeling the wounds that we have, to feel our deepest fear, deepest emotions. And this is what happens all the time in a relationship. We try to protect what scares us the most, what we don't want to feel, because what happened is that nobody really wants to feel pain. Nobody wants, oh, I want to feel pain. I'm so happy. Give me some pain. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to suffer. And this is why we protect ourselves so much. We create a new personality. We create layers and in order to pretend to be someone else, for many reasons, to fit in or to basically not to get in touch with fully who we are.
Yeah, and that is the coping mechanism. So we build a coping mechanism for the wounds, so that we can operate in this world. Otherwise, we will all cry and be hurt on the street. So we create a coping mechanism to be able to operate in the world. And we also, because we create these coping mechanisms, they become patterns. They become our patterns. It's our preferred way to deal with situations where that pain might appear in our life. The beauty of this life and the beauty of this journey, especially in relationship, is that it's a journey of healing. So these wounds, these triggers are coming to the surface to be healed, to be understood, and to drop the coping mechanism, dive into the emotion, feel it, and come out of it anew, come out of it free at the end. Because these wounds are really created from 0 to roughly 14, 15 years old. And they affect different areas of the subconscious and different areas of the brain, actually, of the nervous system.
Yeah, so basically, as unromantic that it can sound, a relationship is made to heal. There's some fun, obviously, otherwise nobody will, we all become nuns and priests and whatever we want, or ending up in a cave in the mountain. But yeah, every time we attract somebody, every single person that we attract around us, it doesn't mean lover. Lover is just that it makes it more intense in a way. But even the friends we choose, everybody that is around us, or something to learn about. It's something that we need to heal. So that's why we get triggered easily. Every time there's a trigger, and this is where what you try to hide, basically.
Yeah. And if you don't like the word heal, because sometimes I don't like to say heal because it means we are sick and we are not. Get it like the relationship is there to make us grow, to make us expand and be more free. So you can see it from that perspective, because the wounds are actually, unfortunately, sometimes are clinical. So we don't go into those details, but the traumas can be actually very deep down into the body, into the subconscious. So you can see it from the healing perspective, or also from just expanding yourself.
So to give a very concrete example, for example, let's say that you grew up without having any affection or any attention from none of your parents, doesn't matter from which side, or even both maybe. And you will grow up with this lack of affection, and you will try to look outside and look for this love that you actually never had before. And what happened is that you will usually develop subconsciously a belief system, which we'll describe soon about the belief system, is that you will believe that you don't deserve to be loved because your parent didn't love you. Even though it's not true, it might not be true. Your parents love you the way they could, or the way they knew. It doesn't necessarily, they don't know them, that we have different love language. So sometimes it's giving gifts, sometimes it's giving affection. So we have different language. And when we develop this belief system, even though it's not true, it becomes embedded in our subconscious. So as we grow older and we go into certain relationship, we're going to attract actually people like that who will show us and prove that we don't deserve to be loved, for example. So that's why at the beginning it's beautiful, because we don't go into the subconscious yet. As I said at the beginning, the subconscious kicks in when we start feeling comfortable, just like we are with family. So it's the same. So here we so I just go back. Sorry, I got distracted by the waiting room. So we developed the idea. So at the beginning, everything is beautiful, and then we said, "Oh, hold on, but this person loved me. How come this person can love me? My parent didn't even love me. Well, I believe my parent didn't love me. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to test the person, challenge this person until the end to say, okay, this person loved me. Oh, and I'm going to push him or push her away because I believe nobody loves me. So I'm going to do it." Or another example, I'm going to give a personal example. I grew up with my parents arguing all the time. Every single time, every time I was looking at my parents, they were arguing for nothing and everything. So as I grew up, every time it was calm and it was quiet in the relationship, subconsciously, I would create a situation to bring an argument because I would feel love, I would feel alive. Oh, that's like my parents felt this way, so I would feel this way because it's familiar, because I saw my parents this way. It's familiar to me, and we always try to recreate a familiarity in our relationship. So because arguments were very familiar to me, I was recreating the same thing in my relationship all the time. And I think it took me 25 years or something like to realize this, because I was keep doing this and over again. And I'm the type of person who always were saying I would definitely don't want to end up like my parents. And unfortunately, we do, as conscious and aware that we can be, with all the knowledge, for example, that I can have, I still end up doing it subconsciously, because understanding ourselves is a journey. It's not something like, it's like you have a storage of 100 meters square, full of mess. You can't just go at the back unless you have the back door. But usually we have one door and we have to dig layers and layers one at a time. And that's the beauty actually in staying in a relationship. I'm not talking about toxic, obviously, relationship, but when there's mutual love, when two people love each other very much, and it's a beautiful opportunity actually to discover ourselves even more, because the goal for me, I would say, it's to be free in a way, free of emotions, not becoming robotic. We're all human and we all feel emotions. So it's more about not being triggered for things that shouldn't be the case, or creating situation. And yeah, for example, for me, as I said, it was about the argument. Now I stop somehow to create this.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very vulnerable. And we all get triggered in the relationship, and the patterns are there. And I don't think the target is not to get triggered. I think the target is to be conscious, because when we get conscious, even though we get triggered, we know where it comes from. Well, I know where it comes from when I get triggered. I know the part of my body that contracts when I get triggered, and then I can do something consciously. I can take a conscious action. So and also, like, I will share something about myself as well. Yeah, so my parents also were arguing all the time, and
I guess that's why we attracted each other.
And yeah,
law of attraction.
And that's the ugly truth. That's the ugly truth. We have some point of attraction there, which is argument. And I knew it from the very beginning, and you knew it from the very beginning, almost. Like, we knew it. We know this. For the ones who are into astrology, we even met on a Tuesday, which is the day of Mars, which is the planet of fire, of war. So it's obvious that we need to alchemize. We need to alchemize argument. We need to alchemize anger. And in my case, so what I did, and this is a personal example, I was confusing love with argument, with fights. And I went into a weekend with the Mankind Project. It's called the Warrior Weekend.
Which is a man group.
It is a man group. And we did processes there, like very beautiful processes of embodiment and of rewriting the subconscious with a big group of men. And I rewrote that. I rewrote into my subconscious. So I could feel like this click, like this leap into a new possibility that my relationships will be harmonious and will not have arguments. And it's a process of alchemizing the energies, and as well relearning new behaviors. And we'll see in the next part how to create new habits, basically. And yeah, so this is what I wanted to share. You can do this in processes, in men groups, in spiritual groups that are focused on working with the subconscious, shadow work, and rewriting these parts of the subconscious which were, because of many reasons, are there, and they are not serving who we want to be. It's nothing wrong or right. It's, I want to have a harmonious relationship, but then I end up arguing all the time. That doesn't work for what I want. So there is something there that doesn't work, doesn't serve me. So then I want to rewrite it. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so to summarize quickly before we go to the next subject is, so again, we have the romantic love where everything is beautiful, everything is perfect. It's like you find the love of your life, and then out of nowhere, we become comfortable and poof, everything goes wrong, argument, everything. So again, this is where the wounds appears when someone starts touching the tender point where it's very sensitive. And this is where the subconscious activates and the patterns are created. So with again, as Alex mentioned, the patterns are created out of the subconscious and the wounds to protect ourselves, to avoid going into the suffering, because we don't want to suffer, and we want to prove our subconscious that it's true what we believe, to protect the core of our belief system.
Yes, and that leads us to the next part. Why do we do the same mistakes in relationship, and are the mistakes really mistakes? So let's look, because we all been in relationships, I'm assuming. That's why you are here tonight. Or if you haven't been in relationships, maybe you want to be in a relationship. So for us who have been in relationships, we observed, if we look with honesty and humbleness at ourselves, we observe that our relationships, they look alike. We kind of tend to do the same mistakes, and we are kind of facing the same issues.
So before we say something, I usually don't like the word mistakes, because we always think we're doing mistakes, but they are not mistakes as such. It's just, again, it's just the patterns. It's not about we do the same mistakes. No, we do the same patterns. We still have, and it means that we still have the same belief system, because we still do the same thing over and over again. So mistakes are not mistakes. It's just the patterns that we keep doing all over and over again until we understand, and we become aware of these patterns, and we start changing it. Sorry, you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's look at the first part of this mistakes or patterns, and those are the habits. So the reason why we repeat patterns in every relationship that we have is because we are there. It's us going into the relationship. And it's us with our habits. It's what we learned. We learn to be in a certain way. And unless we become conscious and we take conscious action, we'll repeat the same patterns, you know, being lazy, not being present, being superficial. Yes, I'm talking about myself, you know, like, like, and I'm aware of my patterns and of my habits, and I go in a relationship with those habits. And what I do when I observe the habit kicking in, I take a conscious action. If I'm lazy, I put the alarm clock at 6 a.m. and I wake up. If I'm superficial, I go more deeper in understanding myself and trying to understand the other person. And
there's something actually I would like to mention, because it's something that I saw quite often, which is a bit sensitive, but I would like to be totally honest with that. And if there's anything that needs to be clarified, please ask, and I will clarify this point. For example, there's a lot of men or women, but usually it goes for women, when they always end up saying, I always end up with a jerk. For example, I'm with a guy who doesn't care about me. I never can find a nice guy. While even the nice guys comes around, she will not even look at him. And why is that? Again, it's because of the attraction. I didn't mention it earlier, but the attraction comes of the aura that emanates from us, and which comes from our belief system. For example, if the woman believes that but she's not worthy of anything, automatically she will attract a man, even though he can be very nice. I'm sorry, I would just mention something else before I continue. In every relationship, it can be friends or lover, there's a dynamic that happens. It doesn't matter how you are by yourself, you're always different with another human being. Our behavior changes, the way we are changes. So the man can be very different from one woman to another, just like a woman can be different from one man to another. So going back to my example, if a woman, again, if she feels worthless, she will attract a man who will prove and show her that it's true. She doesn't worth anything. So she will go into the victim mode, and the man will be the tyrant in a way, and he will always put her down, or vice versa. It's a bit, it's kind of a self-destruction.
No, it's actually very valid what you said, and it happens for men as well. So if we have a habit of not being loved, not being satisfied, not being nourished enough, we will go in a relationship and we will attract a woman who doesn't love us, doesn't nourish us, and if we attract a woman who loves us, we will sabotage that relationship.
Yes.
So what we will do, we will make that person not to love us, not to nourish us, because we don't know to be loved like that. So that's where it comes, the belief system. We need to believe that we deserve to be loved in order to attract in our partner the love that we deserve to receive. Yeah. And yeah, that's a very important aspect of the shadow, because we need to work on ourselves before we can have a harmonious relationship where we actually get to be loved the way we hopefully want to be loved, and we ultimately deserve to be loved, because the belief system is not right. You know, the belief system, if any of us believes that I don't deserve to be loved, that's a lie. That's a lie we believe, And then we go into the relationship and we say, you see, I
was
was right. I was right. I don't deserve to be loved. Look what he did to me. Look what she did to me. So I don't deserve to be loved.
And I don't know if it ever happens to you, but I do it personally, for example, because I have this type of belief system as well. And I will challenge basically the person always saying, see, I knew you didn't love me, or I knew you wouldn't be there for me. I knew you wouldn't do that. So basically we always, the subconscious is always looking for proof for our belief system. Doesn't matter what it is. Oh, I knew, I know I have a lot of things to blame on him, so I can't have anything. But
she does. Yeah, but exactly. But that's exactly where consciousness is important, because when there is consciousness, so for example, if I'm conscious of her negative beliefs, then when she comes to me and does something, I'm like, all right, I know what she believes. I know it's not herself, and I'm going to love her through that, because I know it will pass. It's a subconscious. The subconscious, I told you, like the dark room, you push some love and then it comes something from the shadow, and you don't know what it is, but you stay there, you keep, the solution is to keep on loving, to consciously love, consciously stay there and love, and be curious what's behind the blame, the argument. What's behind that? What's the question? And usually for the men, but also for the women, this is a good advice. When the other person is doing something awkward, something that you can't believe she did that, can't believe he did that, there are two questions. Do you love me? Are you going to be there for me when I need you? These are the two subconscious questions that are manifesting in our relationship in different ways, and they can be very creative and very annoying at times.
And it's true, those two questions are valid for men and women. Every time we go into a relationship, it's, can he or she love me despite everything I will do?
Yeah.
And he or she will be there if I need to.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I said we can become, the subconscious is very, very creative and manifest in many different ways.
That's why it's good to be conscious and not take it personally. Because if the lover will come to you and ask, sweetheart, do you still love me? What would you answer?
Yes, my love.
Of course I do. Yeah. Would you be there for me? Yes, of course I'll be there for you. But if the person comes and say, you didn't take out the trash, like, or you didn't wash the dishes, or you're late, then it's harder to see the question. But the question is there, trust me. And it's not, you have to trust me, you have to trust the psychologists, the doctors, all the passionate people looking into the relationships and subconscious, which I learned from. So they are saying that these are very, very vivid questions, and there are very fundamental needs for attachment.
Which eventually we try to avoid attachment.
Well, attachment, it's positive and negative, like with everything. So love has this, when I say attachment, John Bowlby's theory of attachment, it's actually John Bowlby's theory of love. So I'm not talking of attachment of like, oh my God, not that part of attachment, but the love part of attachment. All right, do we want to, we talked about the habits, about the subconscious. Do you want to talk more about the belief system?
Yes, so the belief system is the core of all our problems, literally. If we don't understand ourselves, as Alex mentioned earlier, if we don't understand our wants, if we don't understand our subconscious, our patterns and our belief system, it will be hard for us to understand the other person, because we will always tend to blame, to judge, and so on. While if we understand all these aspects, we'll say, okay, I feel this way. And in a relationship, everything is a co-creation. It's never someone else's fault. It's never his or her fault, and it's never your fault. It's always both. It's never one-sided. And it's something that might be hard sometimes to understand. But again, when I talked about the dynamic earlier in a relationship, when we have two entities, one here and one there, when a couple comes together, it creates a third entity, and it creates a different dynamic. And from there, you have two subconscious coming together. And this is where usually we have the attraction, is because, unfortunately, if we go with somebody who from the subconscious, so it's usually attraction from the wounds, unfortunately. So again, if someone had the wounds of abandonment, this person will be attracted to someone who has the same wounds. So they will try to get stuck to each other and avoid to feel, oh, I'm going to be with you and let's not leave each other and stay in our bubble, so I don't feel abandoned like my mother or my father did, for example. So again, belief system, it's something very crucial to understand.
Yeah, and when that comes, when the wound is kicking in, and when we are triggered, when we feel betrayed or abandoned, there is a book called Grow Up. I don't remember the guy's name, but he says, when I feel betrayed, I want to feel betrayed for all the moments when I felt betrayed in this life, so that I consume that energy. I feel everything, but I have to feel about betrayal, and then I step out free of the wound of betrayal. And that's kind of like the attitude of a warrior, to, you know, feel the pain till the end until it's consumed. All right, so we want to move to the next one.
You want to talk more about the belief system?
I think we can talk about the belief system at the end, in the context of, you know, how to rewrite the belief system. Yeah? All right. So why it is hard sometimes to even see and learn from our mistakes. So do you want to talk about the blind spot?
Before talking about the blind spot, it's very important actually to still understand that why usually it's hard to see. And we always say, why am I ending doing the same thing all the time? And again, it's because of our subconscious. Can you just go back to?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why usually we can't see. It's like when he was talking about the blind spot, it's like when you drive a car, basically. You can see in front, you can see on the left, and you can see on the right. And on the back through the mirror back in front, yes. In front. I don't know how you call this in English. And so you can see on the back. But the two blind spots where you have to turn your head to see on the side. In the life, it's the same. So when there are patterns and we have some behaviors that appears all the time, and the question comes, why am I always doing the same thing? Why am I always attracting the same type of people? It's because of this blind spot.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so the blind spot, the beauty of the blind spot is that it's my blind spot. Everyone else can see it because they are in front of me.
Like the car who was on the right will see, but you are there, but you will not see the car.
It's me it's my blind spot. So Natalie asked me the other day, how do you find your blind spot? You know, it's your blind spot. Well, it's the easiest way is to ask your partner. She knows all my blind spots, and if I trust her, if I listen to what she's saying, and I really look deeply into myself, I find it. I find my blind spot, and it's a shortcut. It can take me years to find the blind spot.
And last time I read a joke, very funny joke. Well, for me, it was funny. It can offend some people, but I found it very funny. It was a guy who was going to the church praying to Jesus. And I was like, God, please tell me how I can learn from my mistake. And Jesus responded, oh God, saying, well, ask your girlfriend what, tell one mistake that your girlfriend did, and she will tell all the mistakes you did since you were born, the mistake from your family and your friends all together. So I found it so
exactly,
but the same idea. So other people, that's why when you go into a relationship, the person will trigger you because this person can see your blind spot, and if it hurts, if it's tingling, you see some uncomfortable reaction, it means there's something behind, hidden.
Yeah, exactly. If my partner will tell me, if Natalie will tell me, oh, you have this wound of betrayal and you're like all the time. I don't have the wound of betrayal, very, very little. It's not my trigger. And if she's telling me that, I'm laughing, you know, like, yeah, okay, maybe I have like 1%. But when she's telling me about the wound of abandonment, well, then there you go. I can feel it in my body. So when we get triggered by what the other person is telling us, it means it's true.
Yeah, and usually there's a lot
Otherwise, if it wouldn't be true, it will not trigger you. So, and it's not obvious. So don't think now it's obvious. But when it hurts, when it triggers you, it means something is there. So you need to do some introspection, look into it, and find it out, because there is a gold behind there.
And you have to be careful as well, because in a way, everything we talk, everything we think has a filter. We have our own reality, we have our own stories, and therefore everything we do is according to our own belief system, and we project our belief system onto others all the time. Doesn't matter what it is, we always project in a way or another. And sometimes it might be projection, and
Yes.
sometimes it might be reality, because once I was talking with somebody and they were saying, oh, this is pure projection, which I know it was not a projection. And then I asked a question, how many people told you this? I said, oh, most people. Well, if most people told you this, it means that is not a projection. So that's why, how do you know if a person actually project or if it's actually real? If there's like, for example, if you talk about relationship, if your ex says something like the past two or three partners tells you you were in a certain way, it means there's something to look into, and it means there's some truth in there.
Yeah, in Romanian we have a saying: if two people are telling you you are drunk, you go to sleep. So in the similar way, if two partners they told you the same thing, it means it's true. It's time to wake up in this case and do something. So that's a bit about the blind spot and how to spot the blind spot. Yes. By the way, for the people who are asking questions, we will have half an hour to answer questions at the end. So we will answer your questions in the end. Now into more like yes. So into more esoteric and spiritual, if you want, aspect of the relationships. I was mentioning the samskaras in the beginning, which in Sanskrit are the karmic deeds. So, and these are imprints in our energetic field, and they are not determining our life. So we all are coming with a karma, but if we bring consciousness and attention, we can actually consciously build the life that we want, and not going into the resonance of the samskaras, of the karmic imprints, but they are there. So if we have now you might want to, you will ask, what are the karmic imprints? What is he talking about? If you want a little bit less esoteric, these are the typologies. So the victim, the tyrant, the submissive, the controlling, you know, the humiliated, the one which humiliates. So these are comportamental typologies, but we come into the relationship. And if we are conscious of that, we can actually not go into it. So if we have a relationship of tyrant, victim, well, if the tyrant is conscious of the tendency, it's just not doing it. It's just being conscious. Okay, I have the tendency to control. I have the tendency to be a tyrant in this relationship. I'm going to do exactly the opposite. I'm going to be a good person. But that takes consciousness and awareness and being present and being conscious about the tendencies. Or if my partner has you know, a pattern of a victim, then I'm like, I'm not going to buy into that, even though I don't have the tyrant. But if my partner wants to go into the victim mode and, you know, cry and like, oh my God, my life is miserable. By the way, it's not the case, but I'm giving as an example. And I see that pattern, I just don't give the pattern what the pattern wants, because I'm conscious and I give exactly what the person needs. And we all need love. So instead of giving fuel to the pattern, we give fuel to the love. So even if there are some karmic veils that are not allowing us to see clearly in the relationship, if we take a step back, if we slow down, we can actually observe these karmic imprints, these tendencies in the relationship, and take conscious action. So the solution to everything, to a fulfilling, loving relationship, to a fulfilling, loving life, it's conscious action. So being conscious of the tendencies and taking action despite of the tendencies, taking an action towards the goal that we set for our life and for our relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying this point.
Yeah.
So now we go further into the dynamic that I was mentioning into the relationship. So what is a dynamic, basically? What it is? It's the dance between love and the patterns. Do you want to give an example? That you did so beautifully.
Did I?
Yeah.
The dance between the love and the
Yes.
path. I don't remember.
Okay, so basically, what it is a dynamic, and what I mean by dance between the love and the patterns. Oh, I love you, but you didn't do that. Oh, I love you, but I would love you to do this. So there's always love plus the patterns, plus what we want the person to do according to our belief system. Again.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I believe, so what is the dynamic? The dynamic in the relationship is the interaction between the two people. Is the interaction between the personalities, between the energetic auras, between the karmic imprints, between the desire of the soul, between the direction in life, wants, needs, all that we are. And because we are all unique, every single interaction is also unique. So as Natalie said, I am different for her as I am for another woman, and she's different to me as she's for another man, because it's simply a different interaction. We are all different. So for that reason, there is no one standard way to tell you, okay, this is the way you should do like this and you will be happily ever after. It's always the interaction between the two souls, between the two personalities, and it's a dance. Like, how can I love you? How my question? I like a question that I took from Neil Walsh from Conversation with God. What would love do now? And I apply this in the relationship where two very strong personalities, and we love each other so much, and we challenge each other so much. What did you say, my love?
I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Denial. We talk about that in another webinar. And I apply my question, because sometimes I'm lost, and I apply the question, how can I love her now? Like, oh my God, she did that horrible thing to me. Obviously, I took it personally. I was unconscious. And then what would love do now? So is this dance between, how could you do that to me? Why did you do that? And like, okay, how can I love you now? You know, we all have the ego, and we all want things to be a certain way. And then, but that's, you know, that's just the ego. That's just, you know, our, sometimes our preference as well. But then in order to develop love, we need to dance with the pattern and see, okay, the pattern wants this, I want this. And what I want in this relationship is unconditional love. That's my goal in this relationship. And in order to be able to love her unconditionally, I do have to dance with my patterns, and I do have to drop my ego. And
that's another story, the ego.
Yeah, that's another story, the ego.
So yeah, so going back to the dynamic, basically, when I was talking about the third entities, which is the relationship, in Tantra, we say like our relationship is like a child. We nourish basically the relationship. So the child become teenager and become adult at some point. So if you have children and you raise your child in a certain way, and when this child becomes a teenager, can you actually change the behavior of your teenager? It's really hard. So what we're saying is that, what I'm saying is that the dynamic in a relationship, if you're in a relationship for certain years already, it's not easy necessarily to change it. It's not impossible. It requires effort, willingness, willpower from both sides, and love, obviously. If there's to love, everything in a way is possible if there's a will to stay together. And yeah, so changing a teenager is not impossible. It takes a lot of effort. So just to...
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good analogy. Like, there are couples are like, you know, struggling for years, 5-7 years, and then they go to do therapy, and they'll talk about emotions. It is harder then, but it's not impossible. It is absolutely possible, and it takes conscious action. But when you are in the beginning of the relationship, if we are conscious about the patterns, about the wounds, then we navigate and we dance a little bit better between love and the patterns, because we don't stay too much in the patterns. The problem is when we stay in the patterns, and then we create a habit to stay in the patterns, and then we come home and it's the same story every day, because we know the story and it's familiar. And what we want to offer you is an alternative to that. And the alternative is to become conscious, take ownership of your own subconscious, because we all have one. We don't have to be ashamed of it, be honest about it, and then you know, take conscious action and awareness.
So now the question, how do you become more conscious and aware?
How do I become more conscious and aware? I can answer. My personal answer is I read books. I devour books on the subject to understand the wounds, to understand the patterns, even some pathology, emotional intelligence. That's one way.
But that brings more knowledge. What does it bring?
That brings knowledge. Also, another personal preference and path is embodiment. I'm embodying my emotions. So because where the emotions are happening? They are happening in the body, and in the energetic body as well, but also in the physical body. So when we feel fear, have you seen a person feeling fear and being like this? Yes. No, when we feel fear, we contract. So muscles are contracting. So the physical body is part of this. So another part of understanding myself and bringing more awareness and more consciousness is being embodied, feeling my body, feeling my physical body, and feeling what emotions are happening in my body on a daily basis. Another is self-inquiry, like, why did I act the way I acted in that situation? Was it me? Was it my true self? Or was it my pattern? Was it my fear talking? Or was my love talking? So how about you? How do you bring more consciousness and awareness?
I am conscious by nature.
Oh, of course, yes. I forgot that, yes.
No, for me, I would say the best way to understand where you're unconscious is that when things again arises over and over again, when I feel that things that I'm not happy about keeps coming, I start questioning. I question myself since I'm a child. Actually, I've always did some self-inquiry, and I kind of analyze myself. It's something that is in my skin, under my skin in a way. I don't know if it's English to say that, like in my blood in a way. I always did that, so it's not new. So I always did that. And yeah, so for me, by observing basically my surrounding, observing who I attract around me, observing the behavior of my lovers. So when I have my lover coming to me and he behaves in a certain way, I know that it's because of me, because we create our own reality. So if I see he behave in a certain way, but I don't want to, it's because of what I created. It might be a bit strange and abstract for some, but again, it comes with the example. Okay, now if I'm in a victim mode, and if the person becomes mean, it means I have this resonance. If this person comes and okay, if, for example, let's say if a woman or a man has a belief system that all the men are cheater or all the women are cheater, so we'll attract the same thing. Oh, okay, so I will try to prove that my man is cheating on me, for example, and he will have this type of behavior, and I will become suspicious, and it will become reality in a way at some point. If unfortunately, the thought and belief system create reality.
Yeah, it's the law of attraction.
Law of attraction, yes. So basically, for me, I become conscious just by observing basically what is going on around me, observing how my friends as well, the way they behave around me. Everybody around me, I observe. Okay, how do they behave? How do they react? Am I triggered by something? I always observe, basically. For me, it's through observation that I become conscious of this.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. Meditation, if you do it right, you know, it brings awareness. Any body therapy, any body discipline. I bring awareness through yoga, through workout, through physical activity. My preference is physical activity. So when my body understands, I understand. It's the body intelligence is telling me, you know, gut feeling. Oh, I have a gut feeling. Well, yeah, exactly. There is a brain there in your gut.
That's why we, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And that's why we always say that the body is always more intelligent than the mind, actually. I'm actually a body therapist. I do treatment on people. And the first thing that I do is that I observe the body. The body never lies. And every time I treat somebody, because I dig through the emotion, and actually I move the body memory of the person usually. And by observing the body, I will know what the person goes through, the emotions, what is going on, what they need to work on, and so on. And every time it's right. Why? Because the body says everything. Like everything you go through inside you, the body will tell you. The body give you every signal, the consequences basically of the thought, in a way, of the mind.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. So any embodiment discipline will bring you awareness, if done correctly, of course, and if done with the intention to bring awareness. So this is like our version. There are probably many other methods to bring awareness and consciousness in relationship.
There are a lot of methods, but for me, I would still believe that, but that's my own judgment, obviously, on this, is that if, again, we understand our body, we will understand ourselves more. Because every time, for example, when I start having fear, okay, I will feel it in my body. I will not lie to myself because I understand my body. I listen to my body and I know what I'm going through. I feel sad or any emotions, what I feel. And then I will be able to express it. Oh, my love, I feel afraid. I feel sad. I feel whatever. And this actually avoid and prevent many issues, because when we go through this type of any emotions, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have masks, and the patterns will kick in, and then we will behave, we will become angry, or we will create the behavior of the mask, of the wounds.
Yeah. And I remember one beautiful moment when we are dealing with some fear and we were talking out loud. I can feel fear in my structure. And she said, yeah, I can feel fear in my structure too. And what do we do now? And we are very, we are able to take an action, a conscious action, although the fear was there. So the alternative to that, unfortunately, is taking an action based on the fear. So the fear, if you are not conscious of the fear, we'll feel it, and then we will take an action from the fear, and that's an action from the pattern, from the wound.
Yeah.
And that you can live an entire life like this, and it's not fun. So when we are aware and we say, okay, now I'm afraid of that, you're afraid of that. Okay, good, let's feel this. What do we want to create?
Yeah, for example, a person who will be afraid of being abandoned. Oh, I'm afraid to be abandoned. So because in case you're going to leave me, I'm going to have some lovers, just in case you leave me. So I will not be alone. I will not be afraid to be abandoned because I have some people around me. So this is one of an example there, but this shows in many aspects of the life.
Exactly, exactly. And also, like, as I said, we can sabotage the relationship because of we are not aware of certain fears, and they are playing us in the relationship. They can make us do actions that we don't want to do, but because we are not conscious of the fear, we take actions from that fear. All right, do we want to go to this?
Yes, so we're going to give you a few tools basically to understand basically better, in a way of transforming patterns into more conscious and aware, basically, habits and patterns.
Yeah. No, you can go through this.
So the first thing is, as we talked earlier about the belief system, and that it basically creates our reality. So the first step is basically to acknowledge the reality we have created. Like, for example, men are like that, women are like that, my relationship is like that, love is supposed to be this way, or love is not supposed to be this way. I am supposed to be this way, to behave in a certain way, and so on. And obviously, everything is not black and white, but it's very important to understand and to recognize that that this is how we are, and this is what's in our mind, and this is what we believe. As long as we understand this, things is already a game changer by being aware of this. Okay, I believe this. Is that true? It's more or less, this is really the first step of being liberated of triggers, in a way, to start with.
Yeah, so the first step is to acknowledge the reality.
Yes, and to own it.
Not to deny it, exactly.
And so, okay, this is my reality, this is what I believe. Yeah. Because a lot of things, like, for example, I'm a kind of a jealous person, in a way, talking about that. So if I deny, no, I'm not jealous, no, I'm not this way, or no, I'm aware that I'm this way, what am I going, now the question, what am I going to do, what steps am I going to do to evolve and go through through this emotion and transcending in a way and changing, because there are certain emotions that, not saying that they're not normal, but it's always hides something. For example, jealousy is not an emotion as such. It's just a cover for the fear of being abandoned, for example, the fear of being rejected or whatever. But that's why sometimes like the person will say, oh, why did you look at this woman? Why did you look at this man? Because the question behind actually is, are you going to leave me for this person? So instead of sharing our fear, I'm afraid that you're going to leave me. I'm afraid that you're not going to love me anymore, and so on, or you're not attracted to me anymore. So it hides something like that. So instead of sharing our fear, we will get angry. Again, as I mentioned, we have masks and we have a behavior that hide all the wounds. So as long as we own our reality, we acknowledge it, and we are aware, it's a game changer. Because if you go to your partner saying, are you attracted to this person? I would like to assimilate some qualities. I would like to see what do you like in this person. So maybe I can see if I can not become this way, because the goal is not to change ourselves, but to understand the other person in a deeper way.
Yeah, very, very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And when you share these vulnerable emotions, my heart melts. Like I'm opening up to you. So it is very beautiful when we are able to actually vocalize the fear and being honest with ourselves, and not going to the anger and throw a tantrum like, oh, you look at that woman.
If you do this again, I'm gonna leave you.
Yeah. So because when we do that, when we go into the anger, into the cover up, then we will actually have the effect that we are the most afraid of.
Yeah.
So that's.
And again, it's in order to feed the belief system that we actually don't deserve to be with someone who loves us, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an example. Yes.
Exactly. Behind the scenes is this director.
Yes.
That controls everything, and that's the belief system, which we need to keep under a close eye. Because, for example, one of my negative beliefs is I'm not good enough. And I'm like, I need to keep that in check. And I really like Byron Katie. You're not good enough for what? You are sitting. You are good enough for sitting. Yeah. And it was very beautifully put. And we are all good enough for something, for many things. So it's just a fake. Just a fake construct of the mind. Yeah, so the first step is acknowledging. The second step is recognizing the other possibilities. So, for example, all the things that triggered us in a relationship and life in general. And then the trigger becomes our reality. So the triggers are realities, like these glasses. You know, I see life through these glasses.
And this creates also expectation.
Exactly. So it doesn't, yes, exactly. So do you want to say that?
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, so basically, when we are aware, we acknowledge the reality, look how we can create, what's the possibility? What can we do consciously to build the relationship that we want to build? My subconscious, her subconscious wants to build the relationship. If we put it on a movie on a screen and we look at it, it's like, oh my God, you know, and I'm talking about the subconscious. Then you can do the same. You can, okay, let's have a clean sheet of paper and project our ideal relationship. What do we want to build? How do we visualize our relationship to be from now on in a conscious way? The director might kick in sometimes, you know, putting something on our clean sheet of paper, like a splash of shadow, but then we are clear in our possibility, in our visualization, and then we continuously and consciously feed into that conscious visualization of the ideal relationship that we want to build with each other.
So basically, when we get triggered, instead of going into the mask, so it can be anger or anything else, we think that this is the best way to make our partner understand and not to do what we don't want them to do. So for example, oh, you didn't take the trash out, I'm not gonna make love to you for 1 week or 1 month, doesn't matter. So instead of saying, you know, if you take the trash out, I'm gonna make love to you every single day. Trust me, the person will go straight away to make
Excuse me, I'm gonna go to take the trash out now.
So that's the idea. So there's always like a way to kind of motivate instead of shouting and saying, oh, you didn't do that. Oh, you told me you did that and you didn't do it. So that's how somehow we've been brainwashed. I don't know if it's the right word to say that. Not brainwashed,
It's
but
not
kind of
brainwashed. It's the way we learn.
we're conditioned. We were conditioned.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to always complain. And I was born in France, so I don't know if you know the French reputation, but we are known to complain all the time, and that is true. So my nature, for example, is to complain. Unless I left France like 9 years ago or something, so I managed to change my belief system. But yeah, so it's the same idea. So instead of complaining, I learned basically to go in a different mentality, and it's the same for any type of conditioning. So the conditioning in a relationship, love should be that way. You should love only one person. You should love only me. You should be this way. You should hug me all the time. We have our own expectation, and we have fear. We live in fear. So it's what kills the most, actually, in a way. So again, so being creative. Like I have actually, for example, I give a very concrete example that happens today between us. Is that I bought a chocolate paste that I like very, very much. It actually is not even, it's quite expensive actually, by the way. And he finished it. And he was afraid to tell me, which is very strange. And I tell him, okay, you want to tell me something? Do something in a creative way. So he started dancing, like in an advertisement. He started dancing and he showed me the pot. I finished it. So there's always like different way to bring something unpleasant in a playful way, because when we all like to play, we all love to have fun and to laugh. So it's good to find this stage. Like, for example, if your man is or your woman is in front of the TV all the time, not paying attention, you said, okay, instead of saying you're always in front of the TV, always on your phone, so go and dance and twerk, for example, or it can be anything else in front. If you don't stop, I will keep twerking until you stop. Believe me, he will stop.
Especially if you are a man and you're twerking, she will definitely stop.
If you see your man twerking, she will definitely stop what she's doing and she will laugh at you. But yeah, so that's a way. So always being open to different way of thinking, a different way of possibilities of one situation. What can happen? I have these triggers. This can happen. Okay, in what way can I can react? So it's always try new responses. If one responses didn't work in this particular situation, try another one until we find the spot that actually works. Like, for example, if you go into an argument and it's there's a lot of fire and anger, instead of shouting, but this it's usually works better for the men, because men or by nature they're transcendent, they're more into the void, and they're more, this is masculine aspect in a way. Women can be less like that. I'm not saying that, but like, for example, instead of saying to the woman, oh, you woman, you're always complaining, you are always angry, you're so complicated, why are you always like that? Women la 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 blah, blah. So men complain a lot in this way. So then it's, instead of going into this, you can say to your partners, ooh, this is how you feel, tell me more about you. Oh, it turns me on. She will not be angry anymore. She will be like, excuse me, like what? And she will calm down, because you will play with the emotion. When we play with emotion, because again, what is emotions? It's something that we hide. It's just a suffering that we try to express and we don't know how to express. So we can just say, oh, baby, tell me. So it's just a different way of playing around.
Yeah.
So if we try to play with life, we try to play with everything will change. And the triggers as well that we feel will always with time will disappear because we will understand better and it will be lighter in a way. So
yeah, yes. And so we want to leave you, before we go into the question, we want to leave you with the possibility of playfulness and humor, because we are very funny. We are very funny human beings when we are in our ego. If we really, truly, honestly self-analyze ourselves, most of the things we are triggered of, we can laugh about them. Obviously, not when we are in the trigger, because I acknowledge that in the trigger it is painful. But when we get out of the trigger, it's pretty funny, the reasons why we get upset. So we leave you with the possibility of playfulness and humor.
Yeah. And in spirituality, usually we say that we're all gods and goddesses in a way, because we are the manifestation, we're the spark of the divine. And sometimes I make fun in a way, because we said, oh, you're the god. And when he feels like, oh, I feel miserable, I feel I'm worthless. And I was like, oh, god of worthlessness, I worship you. So it might, the person might be offended, but you can play around in a way. Oh, if you want to feel this way, if you're a god and you feel this way, okay, so you're the god of worthlessness or whatever you feel. So we can play around, and the person will laugh. What, I'm like that? Do I want to be this way? So always play around. For me, being playful and being honest with ourselves, really not denying how we feel. Doesn't matter how bad in a way it can be, or anything. Like, for example, in Tantra, we say, oh, don't be attached, don't be this way. No, if you feel this way, it's good to talk about it, to express it. Doesn't mean that you have to feed and to fuel your mind or emotion that you don't want to feel. But usually when we express, it goes away. So instead of pushing it away, which is what we do usually, oh, I don't want to feel anger, I don't want to feel sad, this is bad. I've been learned to be a good girl, I've been taught to be a good boy, I have to please people, I have to be this way, so I'm going to behave in a certain way. Now, if we deny who we are, if we deny how we feel, this is where issue will arise, and in every aspect of the life, because everything is connected. Private life, professional life, everything is connected. We are how we are in ourselves, inside ourselves.
Yes. Yes. That's very good. And now we can